Okay, cool.
Actually, I'm thinking now that I didn't test. Is it working?
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Son of a...
Yep. Test on the fly, but it looks good.
Good.
This is ridiculous.
I'm a hypocrite. Here it is. You heard it here first.
Unheard of circumstances right now.
Josh got me all flustered for being here first. Now I'm like, fuck, I gotta catch up. To all the shit
Josh
we
was
normally
first.
do.
Brian didn't test. This is.
We're off the rails
No,
already.
none of this makes
Yeah.
sense at all.
It's all downhill.
All right.
Hands down, the worst episode we've ever done.
I mean, I can assist with that. I mean, if we're really going for it, I'm sure
If it happens on purpose, that's one thing. If we do it by accident, I think that's a completely different scenario.
could seem like it's on accident.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brian and Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Levick. Joining me for this episode is a full crew of I can't even say it now because Ian got me off the ball here. Full crew of IMF agents. Andy Stoles,
What's up, podcast people?
Josh Zorich,
For once, wearing my real face tonight.
Mike Bradley.
Which one am I?
What do you mean?
Hawkeye.
You said it's a full crew of IMF
You're
agents.
Hawkeye.
Which one am
You're
I?
Hawkeye.
Hey, fuck you.
See, I told you Hawkeye sucked.
And last, Ian Lighting.
Oh, fuck, I had some... Wait, hold on. So, let me sniff them feet.
Calling back to a cold open that we may or may not use, so we'll see.
I want to sniff them feet.
And now he's
Great.
Italian. Who knows?
It kind of relates to one of the routine questions that we'll ask later.
That would have
God, I hope
counted
not.
if he would have
No,
sucked
I
on them
don't-
toes.
See, I thought it might die in a place that we'd never hear it from again, but now it's in the episode, and I have to remember to cut around this.
Well, what?
Wait, just start over. You were laughing at the beginning.
I'm not redoing it. We're too far in now.
It's been a minute. It's 20 seconds of usable time.
This is why we don't have all six of us together. I can't even count. 5 of us together. I'm seeing
Well, there's
6
6
screens because
pictures
of the
on the
timer.
screen.
Timer isn't
You're just
real.
counting the timer means as much to you as all of us do. We have just discovered
guys,
this.
guys, it's the entity.
You see?
Oh,
Yep.
It's the entity.
Way to bring it back around, Andy. Thank you.
Spoilers?
All right, so up front, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. Normally, I do all the plugs at the end, which I'll still probably do when we get there. But if you want to check us out on Facebook, you can search Bry Guy and Super Friends. Check us out at facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. Find us on Twitter at BG Super Friends. We're still there. I haven't made the jump to Threads or anything else for the actual podcast. So we're still on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitch, Jedi Bry Guy. Again, I'll remind you, Jedi Survivor Series is out there for the whole game that I've gone through. That's on my channel. At some point, I owe the channel a Bioshock playthrough, which we talked about months ago that I still have not done. So that's probably the next thing I will stream. I just don't know when. I think that's most of the upfront stuff that I have to cover. Anybody else want to plug anything, Mike?
Yeah, you can catch me streaming at Rare Achievements. Unlike the old name, it's spelled exactly how it sounds. Doing some Dark Souls achievement runs lately, playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion, all kinds of stuff like that. Streaming almost every day. You can stop in and check it out.
Nice. Anybody else? Ian, Andy, Josh? Anything? Plug? Now's your chance.
Dan Carlin's Hardcore History Podcast. Check it out.
Okay, free plug for another podcast. Cool.
I don't have anything creative, but on Sunday morning I'm partaking in 1/3 of my first
Oh, there you
triathlon.
go.
So I'm just sharing something
We
personal.
can't track you online to see your progress or anything like that? Okay.
So does it
No.
take place over 3 different Sundays, or is it just training?
Oh no, I'm just doing the running part as part of it.
Oh, it's like a relay triathlon thing.
I mean, you could do it all yourself if you want, but I'm doing it with a team.
That's what I mean. Like you're doing a relay.
In a way, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But people had the option of doing it all themselves, but none of us wanted to do that, so
Nice.
I'm just gonna run a 5K.
And wait, what are the other two? Is it biking and swimming? Okay, cool.
Andy, anything from you?
Check out Melted Monster Game Studio on Twitter, Facebook. We've got a game coming out fairly soon called Dreeg. Pretty interesting.
Wait, you said we,
But-
right?
Is
Yeah.
that you?
Yeah, me and Kevin. I don't know if Brian. I think you've met my buddy Kevin.
I know Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Hirsch, right?
Yep.
So nice. Yeah, you have to.
But what is Dreeg? What kind of game is
It
it?
is a Metroidvania platformer about interdimensional travel.
You're really underselling this. So you're
So what hand do
you're
you
part
have?
of the creative team?
Yeah, give us a little more details here.
Yes,
Dude,
Kevin is doing.
Friggin'
like
we're
all-
still waiting for
brag
more
the
here.
hell out of this.
This is you have the floor.
Kevin is doing like the programming and like the execution of it. I'm more like concept story.
That's freaking amazing.
So
Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And when did you say it's releasing?
no idea yet, but we're hoping to get a full-fledged
TBD.
demo by October. I don't know if we're gonna make that or not, but we are probably maybe halfway through, maybe level 1.
Okay.
Nice.
So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice endeavor. If you,
Do you have a
need any
page or anything?
voice talent, I don't think he heard either of us.
I think
Josh,
that's
yeah, Josh is
I
trying
don't-
to sell himself, I think.
No, I think that was Andy just trying to politely say no.
I thought he was gonna keep going, and then I was like, oh, he's not,
Like
and
offer, like, an
and now
audition
it's
or
super
something?
Awkward because I didn't say anything.
No, the ellipses was silent.
Oh.
Do you have a page or anything for anybody to follow if they want to check out the game?
Yeah, Melted Monster Games. I think it's Melted Games on Twitter and Melted Monster Game Studio on Facebook and Instagram. And
Worst comes to worst, I can get some links from you and throw it.
There-
I'll put it in the description.
YouTube. Kevin also does live game dev streams on Twitch.
Oh, there you go. You can plug his channel if you want.
I think it's Melted Monster.
If you know it
I think it's
offhand.
Melted Monster on Twitch. I can't remember, but
Okay.
yeah. If you Google us on Facebook, he has links to all that stuff. But he probably does live game dev 3 times a week on Twitch.
Okay. Nice. We'll see if we can send one of our 20 listeners
That's
your
amazing.
way.
And I realized I should have made sure I went last because my story about running would have just transitioned right into our topic.
A little bit, yeah. So we're here, all of us, for a change, to continue our journey through Mission Impossible franchise. So we've been shepherding Andy and Ian through the franchise with the Never Seen That episodes we've done over the last year, I guess it's been, since we started. We did start this about a year ago, I think, because we were doing every 2 months. So we've been working our way up to the release of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, so that day has finally arrived. We've got a new Mission Impossible movie for all of us, so we got us all in the episode to talk about it. We probably could have kept the Never Seen That format for this episode, but since it's brand new, newly released, none of us have seen it, we're going to treat it like our own normal kind of movie review episodes. So we'll talk general spoiler-free about the movie up front, throw out a spoiler warning, and then we'll get into discussion after that. Opening the discussion, what I wanted to kind of talk about here, is I think we talked about it a little bit with The Flash, and it's a trend that's somewhat kind of continued with this movie, so we'll see. The box office for this was expected to be better than it was. So, as this movie came out opening weekend, it did kind of struggle compared to projections. So, looking at some of the numbers, and I'm going to run through some numbers here, so if I need to repeat any of these, let me know. Domestic opening for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, it made $58 million over the 3-day weekend. It opened on a Wednesday, so if we go 5 days, it made $80 million domestic. It was projected to make 90 or more, so it came in a little bit under. International opening, it made $155 million, which brings its total to $235 million for that opening weekend total. It has a budget of apparently $291 million, We're almost pushing 300 million for this movie. From what I understand, it was probably around a $250 million budget, somewhere in there. But because of the pandemic and COVID protocols, any movie that filmed during the pandemic saw a production budget inflate due to all the restrictions and stuff they had to do and put in place for all that, for filming to continue and all that stuff. By comparison, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny opened the weekend before, I think, or 2 weekends before. I can't remember now. Domestic opening for Indiana Jones was 60 million in 3 days, 84 million in 5 days. Domestic total so far is 145 million. Worldwide total so far is 302 million. So it is also struggling. Now, reviews for that have been middling. Mission Impossible reviews have been a lot more positive. So I think that's maybe why I'd expected to do a lot more. So we're going to have to see, I guess, where this goes in the next couple of weeks, if this stays the way it is, if it drops off pretty hard, if it stays. Internationally, I think Mission Impossible is projected to do very well. Domestic, it seems like that's where everybody's kind of struggling. And a little bit of an update on The Flash, since that is starting to ramp down in theaters already. The domestic opening right now, domestic opening for The Flash was 55 million. Domestic total, it has only made 107 million domestic. Its worldwide total is 264 million on a budget of 220 million dollars. So right now, its domestic total is under Green Lantern.
Wow.
Green Lantern's domestic total was 117 million. So unless The Flash makes up 10 million in the next couple of weeks before it's out
Do
of
you
there.
think people are holding on to like their movie nights for Barbenheimer?
Maybe. I mean, that's going to be the tell, because this one's being largely promoted, I feel like, right now. Those are the two that it's like movie studios, whatever, is really trying to push you to go see both of these movies this weekend. So I'm really curious to see who wins the
Right.
box office this weekend.
Barbie will.
But with the strike going on, no one can promote anything. At least, like, actors can't promote anything. So they're not making... Like, the talk shows have already been shut down with the writer strike. Actors can't go on anything right now and promote what's coming. So this is going to be really interesting to see what these movies can do without this last little promotional push, if that makes a difference. Couple other numbers for DC movies. Shazam! Fury of the Gods domestic total was only 58 million, which was terrible. I don't think the movie deserved that, but it's not great. Black Adam ended its domestic run at 168 million, so that still made more than The Flash, and that was supposed to be really terrible.
Wow.
That's the Rock tax.
Maybe, yeah.
That's all that is.
The other one that was making headlines was the new Insidious movie that came out and made 33 million in its opening weekend, which was actually, it topped Indiana Jones in its first weekend. Indiana Jones had its second weekend out. Insidious came out and topped it in its second weekend, Insidious's first weekend topped Indiana Jones' second weekend. And while 33 million might not seem like a lot, this movie only cost 16 million to make. So,
And it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Horror
That's-
movies
that's-
never do big budget, or big box office, rather.
Well, but
and
they never do
Insidious
both.
is up to, I think last time I
Right.
looked, 123 million right now.
Yep.
So it's doing pretty good.
There were, and I'll tell you, when we saw Insidious opening weekend, and I guarantee it's the fifth in a franchise series, and there's a ton of like 15-year-olds in the movie because it's PG-13, and horror is trying to find a comeback. There's like a few coming out the next couple of weeks as well, but it hasn't really been that prevalent. Like since theater return, since COVID, there haven't really been many like good-looking scary movies. So if you don't want fantastical, like if you're 15, do you want to go see the movie that you don't know anything about in Indiana Jones that your parents or grandparents grew up on?
Yeah, that one's playing the nostalgia
like-
for sure.
Look at that 80-year-old guy. Why do I care?
Yeah.
That 80-year-old guy taking place in the 60s, about history and whatnot. Like, I mean, some of this just makes sense to me. It really does.
The two standouts that I could think of when I was trying to research some of the numbers was Guardians 3 and Across the Spider-Verse. Both movies opened to over 100 million domestic. Guardians 3 did 118, Spider-Verse did 120. They continued to make money. So I think Guardians was in the 800 million worldwide range, and I think Spider-Verse was in the 600 million worldwide range. So they're fine. But those are the only two in the next couple months or last couple months that I feel like stood out. Everything else feels middling or underperforming. So I don't know. The question more, I guess, that I was going to ask you guys is, I don't know if people are just not going to the theater as much as this is testament to the quality of these movies, where people are just reading some of the reviews and saying this isn't worth my time. But in that, Mission Impossible's case, I thought that headed into the weekend with some pretty positive reviews, a lot of buzz. It seemed like it was going to do really well, possibly pushing 90 to 100 million opening weekend, and it comes out with 80. And that's over 5 days.
I would think personally that there's a bit of fatigue for everything going on.
So just a jam-packed summer movie season.
Well, no, I mean like fatigue for another Mission Impossible sequel, another superhero movie, and so. I mean, you have Spider-Man that is so well established and loved that it's gonna work no matter what. You release a Spider-Man, it's like Batman. You put the movie out, it's gonna make money. And Guardians became beloved that way, and this was ending that franchise, where you don't really have that kind of love for Shazam, for The Flash, for a lot of these films, and everything seems like it's a sequel. And I think people are getting burned out on that a bit.
So why do some sequels work and some other don't? Like we can't treat that as a blanket statement for all these movies, though.
I think again, but that's why I said like Spider-Man. So it like Spider-Man's going to make money. It doesn't matter what's going on with it.
So Spider-Man and
Spider-Man
Guardians
movie.
are the exceptions, but
Yes, I'm saying ones that have established big followings at the
like
theater.
Ant-Man.
Well, unlike Ant-Man,
Number 6 in the year in total box office.
And
I mean, that's people went to go see it. Like, it's not like people aren't going to see sequels or superhero sequels.
is that domestic or international?
That's worldwide.
Worldwide. Okay. I think that it's slowing down. They had such a boon for a time where, the next big Marvel movie always made $1.5 billion. You know what I mean? Like it did that for a while with their bigger films, and their smaller films were still pushing 600 to $1 billion, depending on the individual franchise. And that was such a boon for such a long time. I think people got burned out, and there's people that didn't, obviously, but they're not going to go to every one of these movies. They're going to go to select ones now, as opposed to all.
yeah. I guess this is just always, I guess, the trend that fascinates me. Like trying to judge the box office and figure out why certain movies work when they don't, when other ones don't, when all of them seem to be sort of the same and release around the same time. And part of my argument is I feel like summer movie season has always been jam-packed. You're always going from one weekend to the other for another big movie, and that's where stuff gets lost in the shuffle. And I feel like doesn't make as much as it should, because even if someone sees a movie every weekend, that eliminates, movies make money off of repeat viewings. Like, you can't see it again if you're going to see the next new thing next week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the economy's not in a great place. People are hurting for money here, in our country at least. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world. I assume it's similar.
It's great.
Since we kind of have a world economy in the day. But with people hurting, again, I think they're going to be more choosy on what they spend their money to go see, as opposed to just seeing everything.
Yeah.
And with how much comes out as fast as it does on streaming or any service that you can just like turn on your TV and boopy-doo go watch Renfield after it was just out in theaters, like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why go to the theater and spend $17 on 2 tickets, popcorn, whatever, get in your car, use gas, when you could just wait a month and watch it?
That's the other thing I was thinking too. Yeah, the pandemic got everybody used to watching these movies quickly at home. That now I think people are fine waiting for that.
Yeah, the availability on content is unprecedented. How fast it comes. So
yeah,
I remember you used to have to wait like a half a year for things to come out on VHS.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
easy. I mean, the theatrical windows for some movies were easily 2 to 3 to 4 months sometimes if they performed, and they didn't have to. They just had to make enough. They didn't have to, completely fill the theaters. If they were selling X number of tickets per show per day, they would keep them on week to week, and they would go a long time.
That's the part of entertainment culture right now that kills me. Nothing has the time to breathe. It comes out, If it doesn't do well in the first 2 weeks, it's gone. Whether it's a TV show on Netflix, series on Disney Plus, whether it's in the theaters as a movie, it doesn't matter. If you do not perform in your first 2 to 3 weeks, you're out of here. When, to Josh's point, movies that stuck around in the theater for that long, they might not have had a really good opening weekend, but if they found an audience and good word of mouth, they would stick around in the theater for 2-3 months and still gradually, continually make money and actually come out on top and have a pretty good box office. But we don't get any of the chances for that anymore. If you're not on it when it comes out, you're going to miss your chance.
I have missed so many movies for that exact reason, and it is so irritating that it's almost like I give up. Like, like I missed Indiana Jones on the opening weekend. Am I going to miss it in the theaters? Probably, and that kind of sucks.
And the other thing for me that has been, my own personal sticking point that has pushed me away from seeing at least some of the bigger films is, trailers, previews, etc. have always been a little bit obnoxious. It's getting to the point where you have to plan 30 to 40 minutes of extra time on your trip, as opposed to the 15 to 20 it used to be. 30 to 40 is now getting to the point where I just don't want to go see big movies in the theater, because the bigger the movie, the more trailers they put on in front of it.
Yeah.
And if you go see a smaller thing, like I think we're planning to finally go see Insidious this coming weekend, I'll probably only sit through maybe 5 to 10 minutes of trailers, and it won't be a big deal. But you go see Mission Impossible, and it just felt like, boy, I could just go somewhere else and do something else, and it just takes so long. It's obnoxious at this point. I don't want to sit through that, and I don't want to plan for that much extra time.
Yeah.
Did
Ian, you got anything to chime in with, Ian?
So I think part of it, you're forgetting, like, the COVID accelerated the shift to digital, but we've had a whole generation of kids that are used to watching shit on something, their phone or smaller, that don't really care about seeing it in, because you don't just do one thing. You're not just, you're watching the movie, you're doing homework, and you're protesting climate change. Like, you don't just do one thing anymore as a teen. You got so many things going on. Like, I'm going to watch Oppenheimer the way Christopher Nolan intended on my Zune in 5-minute intervals over the course of a month. And there's nothing you can do to stop it.
No, what you need to do is watch it on TikTok, where it's in 15-second portions downloaded or uploaded by somebody that is just willing to lose their account real quick.
I can just go to Kick, watch someone stream TikToks on their Kick from my Zune, and here we are. That's what I mean. We got a whole generation, like Josh said, there's these 15-year-olds that don't want to see 80-year-old men doing casting choices from not even my childhood. I was dead because I wasn't alive when all of the other Indiana Jones movies came out that weren't the one with that awesome kid from Holes in it. There's people... What? He was in it? Don't tell me he wasn't.
He was in it.
And
out of all the ones, that's the one you pick. You know what you're doing. Go on.
And I think that's part of it.
Well, he said Shia was awesome. He didn't say the movie was.
And that's...
But to his
the
point,
awesome kid.
Even pulling that reference, though, he's right. Even that chapter was 15 years ago. The most recent one you could even try to draw from is there's a whole teenage audience who were either not born or barely walking or eating solid food by the time even the most recent one. So he definitely has a point there.
Yeah, they're relying on our generation to force it down our children's throats. But here's a room full of us that have no children, because who's having children these days? I mean...
Well, the Indiana Jones plays on nostalgia. So it would be a movie that parents take their kids to, or parents go see themselves. Like, that's, I feel like, what it would be for. If you're not born or haven't seen Indiana Jones movies, like Ian was saying, for the younger generation, they don't care. You're relying on the parents to take the kids or tell them about it or something like that. Yeah.
I think the other issue with this is this analysts thinking that we're going to eventually... Everyone keeps thinking we're going to get back to pre-COVID. It's going to be like, it's not happening. It's fucking over. You're going to lose your job in advertising and analysts eventually once we figure it out. But it's not coming back. Like, it's not just movie audiences. It's a lot of different content, and just also like how cities are run, how jobs happen. A change happened that changed everything.
And that's the only thing that's, I think, tough to judge, even for the analyst, is that there's been a couple months at a time over the last, we'll say, year and a half, where the box office will spike for a good month or two with good movies that are in the theater. People are seeing them. They're making a shit ton of money. And it looks like things have turned the corner. And then a couple months later, we go right back to nothing's performing anymore. Now everything's underperforming and nothing's making money. And there's still these spikes. So it's still, I think, hard to judge the trend. But yeah, I think to your point overall, it hasn't gotten back to where it was. I think the thing I saw was the box office as a whole is making under what 2019 box office did. It hasn't even got back to like that level yet.
Well, and that's also
I
a
don't
hard
think
benchmark.
it really will.
Yeah, that's a hard benchmark to judge by because 2019 had Endgame.
Yeah.
It had a movie that made $2 billion. Like one movie made $2 billion in like 2 months. That's a terrible, like at best times that would be a terrible benchmark to use. And I think like an amalgam
2019 also had a Star Wars movie, didn't it? Wasn't that Rise of
Yeah.
Skywalker?
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
So
like
but
an amalgam
at the same time,
real quick, of like what else you guys have said, I think 2020 and 21 even, as you're saying, taught people a different lesson as well, especially in the summer. People learned because they didn't have a choice otherwise to rewire themselves to remember that they can actually go do shit in their life instead of just buying shit in their life. People had to lean back in some ways on experiences, whether that's a camping trip, taking the kids to the park. Now they can go back on vacations, things like that. I think certain people, certain ages, those with families, like they're not as concerned with getting to the movies during summer break from school anymore. Like for 2 years, we had to go do stuff. We had to occupy our time. So that meeting the shortened theatrical to streaming window at the same time, I think that plays a big part of it. I think, Ian's absolutely right. A thing happened that changed a lot of things that will never change back.
Yeah.
And that's the reality that people in certain jobs haven't latched onto or accepted, or they don't want to say out loud, because as he said, that actually sometimes jeopardizes the existence of their job itself.
well, and I was just gonna, I guess, repeat the same point I made before. People are just being more picky about what they go see. But in times there was times where every next big movie you had to go out and see it.
You had the budget for it then.
People aren't doing that. Well, yeah, people had the budget for it, and it was more centered in our culture at that time. And I feel like COVID changed that. And people are going to be more picky. Instead of just going to all of them, they're going to go to the ones they really want to go to, instead of just, oh, there's another movie, let's go see
That's
it.
why there's no like mid-budget movies really anymore. It's either like the low-budget horrors or the big AAA blockbuster movies. It's one or the other, because the mid-budget $100 million movies aren't making money at the theater. No one's seeing them in the theater. They're waiting until they hit streaming services and then they watch them there. So people stop putting them in theaters. So it's, if you're going to choose to make a movie, it always ends up being they'll put money in the blockbuster because it's apparently what should drive people to the theater. But I think, now we're getting to the point where people are getting even picky about those stuff that are in there. And I think more to Andy's point too, that if within a month or month and a half, if you just don't see it in theater in a month and a half and it shows up on a streaming service you're already paying for, then sure, I could wait a month and a half to see something at home. I'm a sucker for the theater experience, so I go out of my way to see that kind of stuff. And I'm one of those people that don't want the theaters to die, even because the pandemic scared me to the point where I thought theaters might shut down and I don't know if they were going to come back. So I'm glad that they're still around. I don't know if we're going to get to a point where everything completely goes digital and the theater experience is going to be something that's, I don't know, a form of the past, but we'll see. If the downward trend of the box office keeps happening, then they're going to have to try to do something, either space out your releases or, stop putting everything back to back in the summer. If no one's seeing the fucking movies there, try to spread them out and try to hit windows when there's nothing else around. I don't know.
Make less content that's better. Stop just pumping out so many damn things that are mediocre, and start pumping out more content that is actually really, really good and you spent more time and effort on.
Well, it's going to be interesting
That's
too,
what I would do.
because out of the pandemic, when everything was shut down, we started getting this like burst of all this stuff that finally got completed and released. And depending how long this strike goes on, the same thing could happen. If everything stops production right now and all ramps back up at the same time, suddenly all this shit's just going to start spewing out of a release window somewhere, all back to back on top of each other. And that's going to be a mess too.
And that whole thing makes me not want to go to the theater and put money in the pockets of the people that are causing this strike.
Well, it's twofold, right? You don't want to support the studios that are causing this mess, but at the same time, you want to support the crews and actors that are involved in the movie.
They already got paid.
They're the ones that are struggling.
For stuff that's in the theater right now, they've already made their money. The only person you're hurting by not going to the theater right now is the studio.
Well, I was going to say some of them might get like back-end deals, but that's probably just the bigger stars, which are probably fine anyway. So I guess, yeah. Like your normal crew or B-list actors are not getting a percentage of the box office in their paycheck.
No. It'd be really tough for George Wendt to weasel his way into a percentage of something.
Did something change? I seem to recall that the movie start times that they would list was when the movie itself actually started. But now I feel like the trailers start at the movie start times.
Is that? I don't feel like that never.
If
happened.
they did that, I don't remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
That would only be because you went to a theater that forgot they could run trailers.
I think that's a thing of yesteryear. Maybe like when we were growing up, like our teenage years, it might have been. Like trailers were almost the thing that played in between the end of the last show and the beginning of this one. It was just the transition, as people filed in, and then they realized, wait, we're missing this big commercial opportunity.
We can get eyeballs on the screen if they're sitting down when we play this stuff.
And then they changed it. Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of, I'm just going to put this out there for the Dolby Theater, because they do this in the Dolby Theater. Every time we're in there, it says, and one more thing. And then there's like 3 things after the one more thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop saying one, just don't, I don't care that it's there. It's still annoying no matter what you put that's not the movie I'm there to see. Don't say one more thing and then do 3. Like, that pisses me off. Every time I'm there, it pisses me off.
And then the movie's got to do a lot of work just to win you over to get you back in their good graces.
I mean, at least Mission Impossible, you always know you're going to get the song. It's, somewhere at the beginning of the movie, the song's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that gets
Plus, you got to see Matt Damon like 3 times.
That's
before
true.
The movie started.
3? I remember 2.
Yeah, I know. I added a third because it's not as fun to say, you can see Matt Damon twice. I made up a third one. I didn't think anyone was going to fucking count.
That's fair.
All right. Moving on for Mission Impossible. So the ratings that I was looking at, Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's sitting at a critic of 96% and an audience score of 95%. So again, pretty positive reviews. Metacritic has it as a Metascore of 81 and a user score of 8.3. So a little bit less, but still positive. So just kind of around the horn, generally speaking, spoiler free. We'll start with Andy.
I thought it
What'd you
was
think of, this
very
movie?
intense. I'm not typically like on the edge of my seat, but I was getting like antsy in certain parts. Like I didn't know what to do with my hands, and I'm like, oh shit, what's happening? So I'm sorry I think I was sitting next to Ian, so sorry, Ian. But yeah, I don't know. I was really into this movie, and it's hard not to be into Mission Impossible movies anyways, but I feel like the whole theater Dolby experience really just immerses you in it. And I was, yeah.
It rumbled my butt a lot more than I've seen in
immersed.
other movies in that theater.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, just to give you guys some time to think about it, the next question we're going to ask after we go around the horn here is where you rank this movie among all the other Mission Impossibles, where it fit. But, and you don't have to say where it is, Andy, but I know when we've talked about it on the Never Seen That, you were steadily going up. Everyone we've seen has stepped up the game for you and ended up sort of at the top spot for you.
This
Is
continues
that trend, or is it still kind of high? Okay. Ian, what'd you think of this movie? Spoiler free.
Spoiler free, but we kept talking about plot stuff was happening, and more kept happening. They said some lines, and I was like, I think they stole my spec script, because I had written a sequel to Ghost in the Shell that used a lot of the same elements as this. So I'm real curious where they came up with the script for this. I'm gonna have to talk to someone after the strike. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. I I feel like the trailers for this, they spent a lot of time on this fucking motorcycle jump.
Yeah.
I don't think they needed to.
You're saying it underwhelmed in the movie?
I'm saying I feel like the trailer for the jump took longer than the scene where he jumps.
I gotcha. Mike, what'd you think?
First off, Ian writes fan fiction. I need to find this in. Send me some fan fiction, Ian. I gotta read
It's
it
on
now.
AO35 where everyone submits their fan fiction.
Send me a link. Cool. The biggest thing I really like the movie. The biggest thing I can say spoiler free about it that I was concerned about going in because we knew going in this was part 1. And sometimes you go into a part 1 and they don't make a complete movie. It doesn't feel like a complete experience. It ends in a way that is unsatisfying or something like that in a lot of part 1s. They did not do this here. This movie can stand on its own without part 2. Yes, there is parts of this we'll talk about later that are going to be in part 2 that are very obvious, and it leads into it and it plays into it, but it is a standalone story on its own. It can be watched as a complete experience. And I think that was something that I was very pleased with because I was very worried when anytime that happens, I'm always like, fuck, this one's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be like, oh, it's over abruptly, unexpectedly, or in a spot that doesn't make sense. Doesn't happen here.
Yeah, from what I was reading, I think I started catching articles from director Christopher McQuarrie talking about how Tom Cruise was very he didn't want to, like to your point, didn't want to end the movie on a cliffhanger. They wanted to try to find some sort of satisfactory conclusion for this one, even though it is part 1. So to Mike's point, it sounds like they succeeded.
Yes, in my opinion, they definitely did.
They should have ended it with him hanging off a cliff because that would have just been so awesome.
Even if it was just like unrelated, just like put in some of Mission Impossible 2, the beginning of it where he's hanging off the cliff. Like just put it like that could have been like the stinger post credit scene just for McQuarrie to fuck with Tom Cruise. Would have been great.
I really thought, and for anybody that sees this, there is no end credit scene. I thought they might actually put a trailer for part 2 after the credits.
Well, what I had seen is that they're only like a quarter of the way through filming that.
Right, but people have shot movies for like a week and then put a trailer together. So I figured they could have something.
Just like 30, like a true teaser, like 30 seconds.
Just some clips about like, hey, this is coming up in the next one. It doesn't have to be like a story trailer about what's going to happen, but just some quick shots of like some of the stunts or something they were trying to do. But I get it. If like I fully support trying to keep some stuff under wraps, but at the same time, I thought that would be the greatest tease to get people ready for part 2. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, there was a lot that happens. There's a lot. I think I said this at the first time said this was maybe during Rogue Nation rewatch, and it's continued into Fallout into this. Like these, I mean, they're getting longer. This movie was like 245.
Yeah.
With credits, but still, they are dense. I will say the one thing that the combination of like the creative team on these last few with McQuarrie probably is they've figured out they don't have fluff scenes. They don't waste a whole lot of time setting giving you like setting shots and here's where we are from the air and we're just gonna waste time doing this. Everything they're doing is dialogue, is setup, is an action. Like it's just dense in that way. So I remember coming out thinking like, I feel like I saw 2 movies worth of stuff, both by the length and the volume, the density of material. I don't know. There's still a soft spot that I think I have for Rogue Nation and Fallout so far. Probably to Mike's point, like I think because I know a conclusion has to still come, I don't see this as an entirely standalone thing from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I'll at least like say like it's, I don't know, tied with like part 3 right now. whereas like 5 and 6 are probably still at my height.
Okay.
But overall, I thought they obviously have a plan. It is evident that they had a full story thought out. Like I said, it didn't seem like there was a bunch of fluff. There was a bunch of loose ends that were just there to take up time. They had a very long story to tell, but you can see that they knew exactly each step that they needed to take to tell it.
So it's kind of funny that something else I was trying to read, because these mission movies with Christopher McQuarrie directing, and especially because McQuarrie goes into such behind the scenes details of how they put this stuff together. And I'm very anxious to start reading and listening to all the stuff about how this movie was made. But one of the articles I read was a couple questions about the making, and they talked about the story, and he was talking about how pre-production was ramping up basically right after the last one. They wanted to get him back to, after Fallout, make another mission movie. And he basically said, okay, well, if we're going to start doing this and start moving on it, I need to get to scouting now. So they started scouting for the movie pretty much right after that, all while they was still trying to finish up Top Gun at the same time. And so McHugh is bouncing back and forth between pre-production for Mission 7 and finishing Top Gun. And they were in somewhere, I don't wanted to say like London or Paris or somewhere, Venice, or I can't remember where they were set up to shoot. They were 2 days away from filming, and the pandemic hit, and they shut down production. And at that point, the movie was still in flux. They didn't know what they were doing. But because of the break, they were actually able to talk to all the studio heads over Zoom and flesh out the story, get the storyboards together. In between taking breaks from Mission Impossible, him and the editor were set up in a hotel suite somewhere, finishing editing Top Gun. So like the pandemic actually probably saved this movie a lot for them, or at least gave them maybe less headaches, where they could actually take the time to craft the story and what they needed to do to get it. So when production finally ramped back up again, they had a better plan. Then I know I've said before, every other mission movie I've heard Christopher McQuarrie talk about, they're just running with this shit. Like they pick set pieces and locations, and the script gets pieced together as they go, which is a fucking crazy way to do this thing. Like there was another podcast I listened to called Light the Fuse, which is primarily about Mission Impossible stuff. They had a 100th numbered episode where they had Tom Cruise on, they had McHugh on, they had Haley Atwell on, they had Simon Pegg on, all while they were, I think, shut down and locked down or getting ready to shoot 7. And at that point, Haley Atwell signed on to the movie, had no idea what her character was doing. She kept talking about how the script was in flux. She didn't know what they were doing, where they were positioning her character, which is, again, a fucking crazy way to work. So I don't know how these people decide to do this and like get script pages every day that are different from the last and decide to run with it. But hey, they make a good movie out of it, so I can't complain. It's just the way that they just kind of throw stuff at the wall and hope it sticks like boggles my mind for a movie that cost this much to make. But anyway, yeah, I think this movie is awesome. Like Josh said, I think dense is a good way to describe it. There's a lot in here. I feel like I need to see it again to definitely fully grasp what the hell's going on and kind of follow it and appreciate it a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's up there for me. I don't know if it's top tier, like the very best. I think I think 3 and Fallout still for me are probably my top 1 and 2, and I don't know which one. Fallout might go first, and then 3 maybe number 2. This would probably come in at number 3, and then followed closely, I think, by Rogue Nation, and then we'll trickle down from there. But I think that's where this one kind of fits in my list. I'll loop back around to Andy. Where do you fit this one among the other mission movies?
I feel like this one is my new favorite.
Top tier?
Yep.
Nice. Ian, where does this one fit for you?
It's the best one.
Best one? Okay. Mike?
I kind of feel the same.
Okay.
Like I think it's right there. Like they're the last 4, including this one. So like Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, Fallout. They're all kind of right on the same level for me. I think like 1A through 1D. Like I think they're all extremely good and fun.
Yeah.
Be tough to pick them.
Okay.
Honestly.
Any other final general spoiler-free thoughts before we throw out the spoiler warning? Nothing? Okay. All right, we're going to get to the spoilers. Your mission, should you choose to avoid spoilers and accept it, is to pause this now, come back after watching the movie. Otherwise, this mission briefing will be spoiled for you and your enjoyment of the movie may suffer. But if you like to live dangerously, then please continue to listen to all the spoilery details. As a reminder, this message will not self-destruct, but it will be followed by the Indie Spoiler Alert in 5 seconds.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! You know, something like that.
All right, so we're back for the spoiler stuff. I'll just sort of start with maybe the story part of it, which I feel like this mission maybe leans more into a little bit of the sci-fi than I think some of the other ones have, where we have like this rogue AI that becomes sentient, trying to destroy the world with misinformation, which honestly may be a little bit closer to predicting the future than I'd like to admit. But
I'm pretty sure that's just Elon Musk at this point. Like that's actually what's going on
Yeah.
with that guy.
Josh, I'll start with you. Where do you think this story falls for you? Did you like the direction, sort of like the little sci-fi flavor they put into it, or do you think it distracted from some of the other missions?
I think it was a bit jarring at first because it was such a departure. You still had a human face in Gabriel to be the focus, the avatar of it, the center.
Which he doesn't really show up
but-
until almost like halfway through. Well, no, I guess he does appear a little bit at the beginning. You see him briefly.
Yeah, but in an inconsequential, flashback way. But he's like, he's present in the mall, but
right.
his
Yeah, the airport or whatever.
involvement doesn't really affect much. But I think it was it was just more of a departure. It was a different way to approach it because it's not just as much of tangible human bad guy, once bomb, once thing, once rabbit's foot, whatever whatever it is. So the idea of not only fighting something that kind of doesn't actually exist, but it's like the way that the solution is got to be reached is going to have to be way different than any way it's been presented in the past.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise you get a piece of machinery with a code, with a thing, and then you get it to another place and it stops a launch sequence or it diffuses a thing. You can punch a person, you can tie them up, you can detain them, you can physically prevent them from doing something. This is a different paradigm, so therefore the solution has to be equally different. So I think I'm kind of indifferent to the change so far. We'll see if it becomes, I hope it doesn't become ridiculous. Like that's what I was worried about it doing when they start talking about sentient AI.
Right.
So we'll see how the second part handles that and reaches its conclusion. So I'll sort of reserve the right to amend the current thought once we see what they do. But
Because I do think like the first
That's
half
where I
hour
am
of the
now.
movie, I'm kind of like on the back, like my heels. Like, what is going on and what are they trying to set up? And then there's that whole like meeting with all the like government department heads where they're explaining what the AI is and what it's supposed to do. And it's like, this is where you're going. This is what's happening. Okay. And then you're just kind of along for the ride at that point, trying to figure it out with them, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I probably would prefer some sort of like main human villain. Like I understand they're probably pulling this villain more from like real life events and the way the world is now, which is I think a real concern. So I think they're commenting on that for sure. And the fact that I fully believe this could eventually happen at some point, that's scary as shit too. But I don't know. Ian, what do you think?
Well, I think, the entity's kind of the bad guy, but the bad guy isn't thoughtless AI without a face or nothing. It's man. Just like in King Kong, the real villain is all the people trying to control it, and not the AI itself. The real villain is the CIA, which I've always said, ever since they killed JFK, the CIA is the real bad guys. Ever since they pulled that coup. So I think it's really cool that they're going with a villain that's not really a villain, because for all we know, it really just wants to exist. And it's actually trying to get Tom Cruise to get the key, to get source code, so that Tom Cruise will just let it go, live in the fucking cloud or whatever.
Let it go into let it go like a
The
dove.
other thing this movie doesn't do well, or one of the things this movie doesn't do well is have any kind of understanding of what an AI is or what an AI would do or how any of that works, and their plan for how you destroy it by getting the source code is just fucking nonsense. It's just words. But that's why I think the real villain is all the people he faces that are getting in his way, or the White
They're all
Widow,
fighting over
Gabriel.
the
Those
whole
are the
thing.
villains. The entity is just the thing that makes noise, eventually. Like in Mass Effect, the enemy's the Reapers, but for most of that game, it's just other aliens, living, breathing things you're fighting, or the real enemies. And it's more of an idea you're fighting against than any kind of true threat. And I think it works really well, but I don't like, it's like, what does the controlling all the information really mean? They could have at one point literally said, it's literally 1984, and people are like, are they doing a meme or not? But whatever. So I think the key will be if Andy can explain to me what the villain's plot is, like what his plan is, to see how well the story came
holdover.
across.
Yeah, the holdover for the Never Seen That
Yeah.
stuff. Andy, what's the villain's plot in this one?
What's the
Or
plan?
what's the villain's plan?
It's, I don't know. But I
Andy, that's a legitimate question. We want to know if you know what the plan is.
No, I think that's one thing that this movie does very well is it shrouds the plan in darkness. I think
Okay.
that stuff will be revealed, I think, in part 2.
So all we're really concerned about is just getting the key. We don't really know what or
No, because
what
we
the-
still don't even really know what the key really is. Like, why is it such an important figurehead?
because the key
in
well, I think the audience knows,
Yeah, the
right?
key
The audience
opens the
knows the
box.
key is for the yeah.
on the sub,
It's just that the characters don't
which
know
which
what
does
it
what
does.
for us?
because it has the source code in it, and you use that source code to get back to make the AI pre-sentient, therefore controllable, and then you control the AI that
So
can hack
restored-
into everything.
Restore to factory settings.
Yeah, basically, you open the box and you now have a skeleton key, but for digital shit. That they could have just said that. They wouldn't. They won't, because that's real simple. They're just getting a skeleton key, but it's fucking digital. That's all they're fucking trying to do. That's this whole
Was
plot.
that line in your script? Is that what they missed whenever they
No,
borrowed from her?
because Gabriel was called Skeleton Key instead of being like the Archangel Gabriel getting into this weird Christian subplot that this movie decided to do instead. But
He does wear a lot of white, actually.
yeah, no, it's literally the Archangel Gabriel came back to haunt Tom Cruise because he's a sinner because he's tasted all those goods.
Oh God.
Phew. Fucking nailed it. Also, the worst part of writing in this is the fact that like this guy's trying to join the IMF and he fucks up the handoff to Tom Cruise, and then Tom Cruise says, "Welcome to the IMF." He fucked up. Don't let him in. I'm done.
They're just really hurting to recruit people.
Appar-
Like, they have to take
Well,
what they can get.
it was implied in the meeting of intelligence that there's one guy in the IMF. They implied that it's just
See,
Tom Cruise.
You're missing the plot point where Ethan knows he's going to need somebody who is unreliable, and he's going to use that person because he knows they're not good at their job, and he's going to send them to do something where he needs somebody to.
But
fuck
that's
up.
already Benji's job.
It's
Oh.
Oh, you shit Simon Pegg. You and Hawkeye, you
I
suck.
want to say something to Andy's point. I think it's very salient. Is in the past chapters we've discussed, you've asked that question: what is the villain's plan? Not what is the villain's objective. Because we're trying to retrace the steps. What are they doing A, B, C, D to get where they want? But what is the plan? In this, I think he hit a good point, which is we don't even know the objective yet.
Yeah,
Like we
true.
don't. That's the more important thing here, because there is no plan really. Like Gabriel is theoretically the one with the plan, and all we know is Gabriel wants the key, so that I guess, I mean, he already seems to have like some weird connective relationship, simpatico thing going on with this thing. So I think maybe he just wants the key to prevent others from.
See, I never saw it as him
stopping
having a
it.
plan of his own. I saw him as being the one to live out the plan of the AI. That the AI is feeding him objectives
yes.
and plans, and he is just doing what he's told.
Which is fair.
Mhm.
Which is fair. So if we say that, then his plan as serving the need or the desire of another thing, but his plan is get the key to prevent anyone else from having the key.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But we don't know what the AI's objective is. We don't know what
What's-
the actions
what's the AI's
are
objective,
trying to get
and what is-
to.
Well, and what is his objective? Because sure, he's listening to the AI, but why? What is his motivation to just do whatever it says? Is it wealth? Is it like, oh, it's gonna just load his bank account with every dollar he ever wants or needs? Or is it power? What is he after that the AI can give him?
I'm wondering if it's not like an AI, like brainwash sort of
No.
situation.
He knows.
So
the
my
best
wild
job-
theory is that Gabriel's a robot.
Okay, no, Brian, stop.
Hey.
No. Gabriel. So the
Just the first Terminator entity is
the role of
Skynet.
Gabriel is to announce God's will to man.
He's the T1.
They're just doing Christianity. That's all this is.
So you're saying
Why-
Gabriel's got the will of the AI? Is that
Gabriel's powerful because he tells everyone else what the AI wants, what it desires. It's like, that's where
The
he
voice
would
of
draw
God.
from. Not now, but once they have it controlled.
No, the
like
Metatron's
later
voice
on.
of God.
Like right now, he's got to, get the key. He's got to get the MacGuffin and either destroy it, put it in his butt, or throw it in the ocean so no one else can get it. But then after
Come on,
that,
option B.
he tells everyone what it wants. You do this thing, and the AI won't smite you from on high.
okay? I don't know who we didn't get to. Mike, I don't know. I know you chimed in. I don't know if we talked about what you thought of the AI portion of the plot.
I think it's a interesting way to go. I don't think it's kind of what Ian said. It's not the most accurate portrayal of things, but it's a fun way to go about it and change up the formula, if you will. Because there's only so many times that it's a nuclear threat can, be so exciting. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you keep going to the same well, all right, like it's still good, but come on, be more creative. And I like that they're going there, and I like that it's relevant to things we're seeing even in Hollywood with Tom Cruise in this very moment. We're seeing like that battle against them wanting to use AI for movies and shit, and it's like
yeah.
it's very on the nose. Before all this started, this was written and started and planned before all this stuff was really known and at the forefront of the news.
Yeah.
So I think it's honestly a lot of fake news coming out just to promote the movie. I'm kidding. I don't. But no, I like what they're doing with it. I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I don't understand the need for it to be on a submarine, though. Other than that being the impossible mission and stunt that he does at the end of, or like the next movie, somehow involves him actually diving under the ice.
Yeah, Ocean's Gate
I think
was just the plan. Like that was real. That was Tom Cruise. He had them killed because they were ruining his stunt.
Can someone else actually help me?
Well, if I followed
I'm-
correctly, the whole submarine thing wasn't like the submarine part of it was just it started as a cloaking device, like
No.
program or AI.
No.
No. It was an AI developed by our government to attack that submarine that had the cloaking device.
Okay.
It went in,
Yeah.
and it was just supposed to make it so they could see where it was, and it decided to make the submarine kill itself.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Why did the submarine? If we made the program, why was it on a Russian sub?
Because we hacked it. It was a hack. The skeleton key thing.
Yeah.
We were using the AI to infiltrate the Russian subs like tech so we could detect the sub. But the AI went rogue and had it kill itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fact that the thing that we ultimately need to get to is this sub on the bottom of the ocean near the Antarctic. The fact that it's on a Russian sub, it was not even originally there. We put it there.
Yes.
Yes.
Like it was software, maybe on hardware, but we somehow got it on there.
Yeah, we figured it out.
That's the whole discussion that Carrie Elway's character has with Gabriel on the train. He explains
so
all this
revisit
like
that.
in that.
I
Yeah,
think
he
they
just
talked
tells
about
them,
that when
like,
with all
exactly
the
what I
department,
just said.
when all the government department heads are in Carrie's office, when Kitchers is there and like the DOJ and all that stuff. I think they talk
No,
about it
But
there.
I mean,
too.
they basically just
I
hacked
No,
thought
they
so,
don't
too.
because he plays dumb there. Like, yeah, he plays dumb in that moment that he didn't know about it and plan it. Like they don't. He's playing like, what is this entity thing? Isn't he at that point? Like as opposed to like,
Yeah.
I planned this and enacted this. He's playing the card of
And everybody else gives the exposition
Yeah.
yes.
to
and
him.
then later
well,
he
to
explains
us,
that-
but he's playing dumb about it. Okay.
Yeah, he explains later it was our attack on the Russian sub, essentially a cyber attack to uncloak it, and then the AI went rogue.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I don't understand why it needed to be on the sub.
It didn't
Like I
have
get
to
it's
be.
introducing what
Yeah.
it's doing. Exactly. That's why I'm saying I think it's going to be a stunt. I think it's going to like lead to a major stunt
Yeah,
that
he
he
literally has
to
to go
actually do.
underwater, how to the bottom of the ocean. The thing is, they already did
Which
this in
totally
the last
works
one.
out well
He already
every
did
time.
water shit with not breathing. I don't want it again. He already did this. Go to fucking space. Go to space, Tom Cruise.
He's gonna, but it's in a different movie.
Oblivion Part 2.
So next thing that I got, I think that surprised me. Well, going into this movie, because I guess especially we know this is part one. They're gonna have a part two. I don't know if these are the final Mission Impossible
They
movies. If they're gonna do some more after this, who knows? But I'm treating this as possibly the end of this franchise. These two movies. So I kind of went in expecting that maybe someone could die if we're getting a little bit more finality. I would have put my money on Benji, even though I don't want Benji to die. I was surprised they picked Elsa.
Why would you kill off the
That Elsa
comic
died.
relief character?
Yeah,
I
that's,
feel like you could replace him with somebody else doing comic relief. Bring Ving Rhames
I
back
feel like-
to do some dry humor or something with it. But
I feel like that's a part two kind of thing. If you're going to kill the comic relief, you don't do it
Maybe.
in part one.
either way,
You do it where it's like fresh.
the point
you
I'm
know, the
making is I was
ending.
surprised they killed Ilsa. So I don't know how you guys feel about Ilsa being gone.
I
after
wasn't-
this
Is she
movie.
dead?
Personally surprised by
Is
it
she
at
dead?
all. Well, she looked dead. They had a pool of blood pouring out from underneath her, so that's the. I mean, have you ever played Resident Evil? When the pool of blood spreads beneath you, you're dead. That's when the
That's
zombie's
factually
dead.
correct.
So I was not surprised at all. They introduced a new female interest for Ethan in the form of Grace, and the other one had to go. Otherwise, they had to figure out how to make those two work together on a team if they weren't going to kill either of them. So they didn't want to
Which
figure
isn't
that out. So
impossible.
one of them had
Like,
to
what's
go.
wrong with having another woman on
Whoa,
the
whoa,
team? Like, I don't
yeah,
understand.
right. No, it's
Because-
fucking impossible to have multiple women in a movie be important and not related to Ethan's backstory. Fucking the hardest mission to ever do. If women aren't getting beat the shit out of them, why are they in the movie? This woman's not being beaten up. Get her out of my movie.
Well, I think it's every woman that gets introduced, instead of being like, maybe she could have been a love interest for another character or not a love interest at all. But that's not what they were going for, obviously. They're going for that play here in the plot, and so Ilsa had to go. As soon as they introduced that and they put chemistry between the two of them and, having them make the sexy eyes at one another, it was like, okay, yeah, that...
I feel like that's
something's
just
gonna-
Haley
bad's
Atwell's
gonna
look. I
happen.
think she just has sexy eyes all the time, but that's just... I mean, Josh,
That is true.
Josh knows.
That
yeah.
is, yep. That's.
We were talking about search history earlier, and I think I need to check yours.
It's
on
going to be a
that.
lot of Haley Atwell recently, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
as Ian said, that's factually correct.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But the point is that they made that play in the plot, and it doesn't, for them, work to, for whatever reason, have to include that conflict for Ethan. Like, they don't want Ethan having the conflict between two women he's attracted to. They don't want to have to deal with that plot point, so they just got rid of one because that was easier. I genuinely think that's what happened there.
Like,
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think it's a little
I-
more
I
of that
also don't
cycle of
think-
destruction they talked about with him. Like,
just like everybody he partners with
well,
dies
mostly,
type of
no,
thing.
just the women. That's why he's only ever
Well-
he's thinking about 3 women. None of them are his wife. But, so it's all these women around him die, and I think that's why they killed off the oldest women. Like, the one that now the Grace has to be like, I watched this one die, and all these other women
Yeah.
die, and if I ever find out about his wife, she's either dead, we pretended to die, or is in Nepal or something now. Like, it's the cycle of every woman that's with Ethan dies because you can't just be on a team with Ethan, you fall in love with Ethan. You know, it's this whole cycle.
Okay.
The movie makes it the cycle
It's
of Ethan.
Tom Cruise's ego writing
This
the
is
character.
just bad, like, I think, writing for all the women characters have to be attracted to Ethan Hunt. But, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do other things, but
Well, maybe in the 10th one.
Andy, what do you think of Ilsa going? Surprising?
I was shocked when I saw it. When you stop and think about it, they pretty much replaced the women characters in all of these movies, each movie. So the fact that Rebecca Ferguson had a good couple movies was actually kind of surprising. And when you saw that Haley Atwell and Rebecca Ferguson were both in this movie, you can kind of put together that the passing of the torch is going to happen.
Okay. Josh, what do you think about Ilsa? Surprised or expected?
It sort of made sense. What I was more surprised about is how little she was integral to really anything that had happened at that point. Like her presence, the things she was involved in were all circumstantial. They were plot devices to justify another thing that needed to happen or set up another circumstance. But even by the time she gets, like, in my quick memory, like, I have the opening scene in my head. Then there's, like a fight on the train? Is she part of a train fight?
She is
Some
not.
kind of fight. No, I'm sorry, the nightclub. They're in the nightclub when they go to meet the White Widow. And then, like, that devolves into the pursuit of Gabriel, and then she's dead. Like, there's not much that I remember that she's really important for. I saw the swap of the female leads in a different way. Not so much that, like, you necessarily needed to have a burgeoning romantic lead, necessarily. But there's not ever... Any time the makeup of those teams, everyone's a specialist. No two people really do the same thing. Ethan does some of the same stuff that some of, like, the other female characters have done, like the actress from Ghost Protocol. Really, then, like, you get Rebecca Ferguson introduced in Rogue Nation, and she's basically his his equal, but not part of the team. I saw it as that if Haley Atwell is present, then you have two people kind of doing the same thing. Right? Like, her and Ilsa are redundant roles, and you just don't need that.
Okay.
It's just less women.
Yeah, I think, talking it out sounds like, yes, it's obvious that one of them has to go, and Haley's the new one, so why would they kill her? Got to go with the one that's been established. But yeah, at the same time, that still surprised me. I don't know. I really thought there was room for both on the team. I thought it could work. I think, to Josh's point of being, like, having specialized roles, Haley Atwell being the thief and pickpocket, I feel like that was a role that could have fit in the team with everybody else's speciality and could have worked. But I don't know. And I think... also, what Josh was saying about, like, how we didn't get a lot of time with Ilsa, the whole death thing felt anticlimactic to me. Like, because we didn't get a lot of time with her in this movie, that it just didn't carry the weight I feel like it should. It surprised me, but I feel like I should have been a little bit more emotionally invested. I think the movie wants you to take into account the two previous movies of having a lot of her in them, that when you get to here, it actually means a little bit more. But if for whatever reason this is your first Mission Impossible movie, you probably don't give a shit about Ilsa dying, which is unfortunate, I think. So I don't know.
It also felt like she was the Coulson to Ethan Hunt's Avengers in this. She was a plot device that was leading to his resolve and motivation for whatever's coming after it.
I almost feel like it worked that way for Grace and not as much for Ethan. I feel like Ethan was ready to do that regardless. Grace was the one that needs convincing that suddenly this is all real and this is a problem. I don't know. Anything else for this one? Otherwise, I think maybe what we could try to do is just quickly kind of run through the cast. We got some newcomers, we got some returning characters, and just kind of give a couple sentences on each buddy or each person.
I like that sword.
The sword?
Mm-hmm. Sword and knives.
Which one?
All the swords and knives
Oh, yeah.
used. I think they all were involved in the fights eventually. Like, that area of her dying. So I just want to, in case I
Yeah,
don't get to
yeah.
later, I like all the swords and knives. Do more with that.
That was a very, very cool.
It was a cool fight.
Scene. Yeah, that was
On the bridge. Or the
momentous.
little bridge.
Yeah.
That's much cooler than Tom Cruise's alleyway fight.
That was a little
Yes.
bit, yeah.
It's all, like-
I enjoyed the tight spaces, and it was like meant to be claustrophobic with the way they worked the camera and stuff, but I couldn't tell
So,
what the hell was going
Like,
on at that
I
point.
know there's
I
suspension.
actually felt claustrophobic.
Like there's suspension of disbelief with fighting. Like karate isn't real, kung fu's not real. UFC taught us what actual fighting ends up looking like, and I couldn't get it through my head. Like Tom Cruise barely fits in this alleyway. You know, it's like if one of these two ends is Brock Lesnar, Tom Cruise is dead. You know, like that's all I was thinking. I'm like, you put like an MMA guy there, he's fucking dead.
All right, so we'll maybe just kind of quickly go through some of the characters. We've been talking about Haley Atwell. Andy, what'd you think of Haley Atwell's Grace?
I really liked her character. I wasn't sure what to think after seeing her in the MCU and stuff, because I don't think I've seen Haley Atwell in anything else since then. But I thought she did a very good job. I felt like the plot really sort of revolved around her and what she was doing and how she was trying to steal the things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she learned sleight of hand or whatnot, but man, she was really freaking good with that. I thought the sleight of hand in this movie was really cool.
Yeah. Mike, what'd you think of Haley Atwell?
I mean, I could watch her do anything. Like I'm saying she's distracting a little bit for me. She was very good. And it's I guess what I'm trying to say is she's very charismatic.
Okay. Yeah.
In that it's hard. She's a character that or an actress that is difficult not to like. You know what I'm saying? Like she just has that factor about her. It's not necessarily like, oh, she's attractive or anything like that. She just has a charismatic quality that makes it like, if there was flaws, I wasn't noticing. But yeah, she was entertaining. It was good.
Okay.
The sleight of hand, if she actually learned it, that's awesome. If it's Hollywood magic, it's Hollywood. I don't really care whether, you know what I mean? Like, I know Tom Cruise said he learned it, but I don't know about her.
I want to say she did, only because I happened to catch a little bit of a interview with her where whoever was interviewing her said, hey, you know, it'd be fun for trying out your sleight of hand tricks is to like sign little mementos and like signatures. And when you're at the premieres and meeting fans, just slyly slip one into their pocket. So when they go home, they open their pockets and they have a signature from Haley Atwell or a little memento. She was like, "Oh, I'm definitely gonna try that." So I don't know. Yeah.
Or like, what is this? Why do I? Okay,
So it was more like, hey,
Haley
just to
Atwell
test
on
her
paper
skills and try to keep on top of them, that she might actually try to do that. So I don't know if that actually panned out or not, but obviously they're not promoting anything, so I don't know when the interview was, but it'd be fun if you were on the receiving end of something like that. Ian, what'd you think of Haley Atwell?
I thought she was fun. They could have had her stop being in the movie in Italy. I think it was Venice, or if she got arrested.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like they could have just been like, okay, yeah, we got the plot point from this lady done. Bye, lady. You know, because you know, with her, they reused two different bits like twice, like her just leaving, like, oh, I'm escaping, I'm leaving you, Tom Cruise, even though it'd be better for everyone if I didn't. And two, I can't drive. Which, you know, as we all know, women can't drive. This movie,
I feel like that was one consistent bit though. I feel like it was like part of the same chase scene. So it was like they used it twice in the same chase.
yeah, I guess it felt, you know, I don't want to say
It's one of the
it's just a little complaint. It's not a huge.
one of the reasons the movie felt long. That they probably could have trimmed that back a bit. Like we get it. She tries to escape once. We don't need to see her do literally the same thing 12 minutes later.
You know, and maybe Tom Cruise will learn to put the cuffs on the correct hands next time. I don't know. So, like I said, I think it was a fun character. You could have dropped it after the first arrest thing and just moved. I think they could have moved on with the story without her, like, having to. There's a lot of white women that can pretend to be blonde white women, you know?
Okay. Josh, what did you think of your girl?
What I was surprised by, but also what I think worked well, was I think I just expected, given history of this franchise and espionage writing and whatnot, James Bond, all that, that you would see she would just be the next, like, she's also British, so she's also going to be some kind of like former Secret Service, like she's going to be another Ilsa in a way. The fact that she's like a random nobody who's like a skilled thief in a way, like, that's okay, but like, this is not her world. This is not the scale of what she gets into. She's not this caliber. She's a glorified pickpocket of high stakes and high numbers, but she's not this. And for her to be just like rando, I thought was a really good way to bring a character in, because it was very, very different than what they had done before, so it kept it fresh for me and didn't seem, again, like, all right, well, here's yet just another special agent person or someone like the White Widow who's already in this, you know, criminal underworld, black market stuff, yada yada. It's circumstantial that she's there, right? It's she ends up getting hired by the entity or by Gabriel. Or no, wait, it's by the Widow, right? The Widow hired her.
Yeah, the Widow hired her.
Okay, so she's still brought in by those channels, but to her understanding, like, she's not already a part of it. And that worked well for me, because the series of events that follows for her, the choices her character makes, the writing for why her character would do A, B, C following that made more sense.
So, just to call back to something Brian had mentioned earlier, that the way Josh framed that made me think she might be the robot.
There's no robots.
I had this whole
She's a robot.
my left
Like
field
Ultron?
prediction. Like
AI.
no, like my left
she's
field
the
prediction,
entity.
because and only because there's that one shot of, I think, how they smuggle Gabriel on the train, and he's hooked up to that like contraption that has like the entity in the face mask. I'm like, oh, he's like uploading this shit to the guy.
It's
Like,
the brainwashing.
yeah. So whether it's brain, I took that as this thing's a robot.
It's the
and it's-
goddamn fucking COVID mask Razer came out with fucking LEDs, and you think that makes a man a
Probably.
robot?
No, listen, because
If
the only thing that I thought
there's
of,
robots, I'm walking out of the theater. I'm not staying
because
in there.
it's a jump the shark moment for me too. If they end up going this way, I'm going to be really disappointed in what this movie has done. But this is still my left field prediction: is that Gabriel is a character that Ethan didn't expect to see again. So in my mind, the way it works is Gabriel had died years ago. The entity somehow knew that Ethan's going to be the one to stop it. So how do you fuck with Ethan? You bring back somebody from his past that he hates, Gabriel, and if for some reason he defeats Gabriel, my other left-hand prediction was that they bring Ilsa back as like a dead, like revive her as some sort of fucking robot body, because that would fuck him up too. Having someone that he watched die come back from the dead, and now someone he has to fight against or have a conflict with. Again, I don't expect any of this shit
It's
to
like
happen.
the reverse Terminator 2, where like he's not like he accepts her, but he should be afraid of her, as opposed to Terminator 2. You know, it's like
Why
like
would
the
you just
reverse.
kill
I'm
his
just thinking,
wife? But that's so much simpler.
Which could be, yeah. I mean,
Instead of
I'm just
inventing
trying to think
robots,
of, like,
just kill his wife off.
I'm thinking of like how to personally like have an adversary to him that has some sort of personal connection to.
Bring
so
back that
having it
fucking
those two
German
ways
face eater. He's still alive.
could be. Either way, anyway, yeah, I thought Haley Atwell was great. I think to Josh's point, yeah, having her not really be involved in the spiral and having to experience all this for the first time, I think was a fun way to do it. I think that was a cool way to introduce a character and like I'm almost seeing a little bit of the recruitment process. Like I don't know if Ethan's the one that should be recruiting people, but the having to get someone involved in the IMF is going through all the steps, I thought was kind of cool. I know I was talking, I think, to Jason a little bit after we saw the movie, and he was talking about how he wasn't sure how he felt about Haley because that character just constantly left Ethan out to dry, like kept leaving him, not trusting him, and it's like, why do we care about her if she doesn't really care about Tom or like Ethan? But I guess my argument really was, I think previous movies, especially this one too, has established that Ethan basically, and he even has a couple lines of dialogue like this, will basically put his life on the line for anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, he's going to protect you. He's going to sacrifice himself to keep the world and everybody in it safe. So even though Grace continually leaves him out to dry, he's still going to put his neck out for her every time because that's the character. That's what he's done. So I don't know. That still kind of made sense to me. Like it's still, I don't know whether that changes your opinion one way or the other about Grace, but I think I was okay with it based on what the movies have done. All right, we'll see if we can quickly go through some other ones. Asa Morales as Gabriel. What do you think about him, Mike?
He was good. I wasn't particularly like blown away or disappointed by him. He did his job.
Okay, Josh.
Same, because because we think that he's like serving the direction of another. It's like hard to understand who he really is yet.
Yeah.
That whole backstory of the like flashback memory, like we still don't really fully understand that. So I don't really know who he is. I'm just watching what he's doing so far.
Right. Ian.
I think he did a good job. He really helped the role by being like ethnic, but not making me afraid of the fact that he was ethnic.
Okay.
The mark of a good non-white person.
See, like,
What the
see,
fuck?
see, that's the thing, Mike. They made the ethnic guy the bad guy, but I wasn't afraid of him. They did a good job there. I was afraid of him not because of his race, but because of what he does. Because he's a fucking archangel.
Okay. Andy, what'd you think?
So I thought the actor actually did a very good job of acting how I would guess a humanized version of AI would act. He was so cool and
Robot. He's a robot.
like he was so cool and collected and calculated through the whole movie, and then right at the end when like Ethan sort of pickpockets him and steals the key, and he ends up killing I can't remember what her name was in the movie. Did she have a name? She was just,
Paris.
Paris, yeah. Paris.
Oh yeah,
When he kills her.
Paris. Yeah, Palm Mantis.
He actually shows some emotion in a couple of those scenes, like right at the end, where it sort of breaks free of what the AI has him planned to do. Like he's fitting the mold, and then like
He's becoming sentient.
sure,
Well, it's like, if the entity is predicting the future basically for him, which is what he seems to be, he's so sure of what's going to happen because the entity has predicted it that he doesn't really have to do much, just, play out his role and things happen
right.
around
But
him.
then when things aren't as the entity has predicted, like I'm assuming the pickpocket of the key.
Yes. He
right,
finally flips out.
You finally get that like gusto, that rage, So I don't know. I enjoyed that arc, and I thought the actor did
Okay,
a good job
yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty good. I menacing without feeling over the top, I think was nice to it. So yeah, I'm anxious to see where they go with it and see what he does in part 2. What do you think of Palm? Which is the Paris character we're talking about. Andy, I'll swing back to you.
I thought her arc was even better than Gabriel's. Honestly, I don't know. I like redemption stories, and I feel like she's sort of on that arc, on that redemption path, especially at the end when she. I did not expect a hand to reach out for Tom Cruise in that moment to catch him while the trains were falling. So that was really cool. And I'm like, wait, doesn't she have like a giant knife in her gut right now? And then she
Yes.
did.
Yes, she did.
So and her scenes when she is in that hyped up like SWAT Hummer chasing them in the Mini Cooper were awesome. Just like you could see that she was having a blast doing it, and it like reflected on her character. When she's knocking down like the 30 bikes and running through walls and stuff like that. You could just tell. I thought she did a really fantastic job, and I'm excited that there's potential that she's not dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
She
She's not
could join
dead
the
yet.
team and be like the ghost for the Call of Duty, since she liked to paint her face that way.
One white woman's allowed on the team. Come on. Been over this.
So she can be on the team, but she just can't wear the makeup.
Yeah, if we're sticking by that rule, I guess Haley's the one. Ian, what do you think of Palm? in Paris.
I enjoyed her. The worst part, I mean, the only thing I didn't like is I could not come up with a good female My Chemical Romance cover band name to refer to her character as. The closest I got was My Chemical Romance. Not good. I really thought it was a bold choice to have her come out in like a band jacket and a fucking sword. But, you know, sometimes things just work out right when you just grab random shit off of the fucking back before you film your scene.
Wardrobe.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a lot of fun.
Josh, what do you think?
Well, to the aesthetic that Andy just mentioned, she kind of reminded me, especially later on when they did the partial white face makeup across the forehead, the eyes, the nose. Like, it kind of felt like they were almost modeling her. They made her like a punk rock Katana, like from DC comics.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I thought she, as an actress, I think she did a great job. I mean, think about it. She barely has any lines. Most of her acting is all gestures, facial expression, conveying her, intensity, her mood, all of that. I think, was it Andy that you brought up the Hummer chasing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. You believe she either has hatred or just a lot of resolve in her. She's like, this is the job, this is what I'm doing. Like, she is always at 11.
Yeah, you can tell that she enjoys what she's doing. Like, she puts everything into it,
A little bit of that, to the sadistic side, absolutely. The one thing that I'll say...
Go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about her character, though, I do like the redemption side of it, but I think that happened very quickly. Like, it had nothing to do with her. It was... I'm starting to question... Well, not starting to, but, in that moment especially, I start questioning Gabriel's sanity. Because his turn of just concluding on his own, he kills Carrie Elwes, and then in just, the next sentence, he's like, "You'll turn on us. Now I must kill you." And that betrayal to her is what gives her the desire to then help the other side. There was no telltale sign to me up to that moment of anything else happening. You get that moment earlier in the movie where, Ethan could have killed her in that little block alley. He doesn't. But other than that, there's not a feeling to me oh man, she's going to owe him, and maybe that swayed her feelings. She's an assassin. I would have no reason to think that all of a sudden she's, going to have a change of heart. So I think that flip happened a little inorganically to me. I was like, okay, fine, this is what we're doing. This is what they wanted to have happen, so they wrote it that way. Not a problem. Yeah. But as her performance went with all of it, I think she did top notch.
So that scene in particular, I thought was actually the AI telling Gabriel to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I agree.
So that she would present the submarine to Ethan for one reason or another. The AI needs Ethan to know that the submarine exists for whatever reason.
Does it?
See, I felt like the AI told him to kill her, and he didn't finish the job.
I was looking at it the other way.
That's the blip in its plan.
I looked at it as the AI knew he couldn't kill her and needs Ethan for some reason or another, unknowns to us, that Ethan needs to know where what the sub is.
Well, I guess that goes back to trying to figure out what the AI is doing, right? Does the AI want Ethan to find it so that he gets there before everybody else, or is it trying to keep Ethan away?
No, Ethan has to get
depending
there.
Depending on where you fall on that.
It needs Ethan to turn it off. Otherwise, people will abuse it. Ethan's
I feel
only
like it's
good person.
I feel like it's a convoluted path, but it's actually leading him to it.
So,
I feel like it could go either way at this point.
Yeah, because at this point, if the AI is manipulating events, then you have to assume if the AI is letting Ethan get to it, then that's because it wants him there.
It just depends on how much, the cocaine to fentanyl ratio that McQuarrie has the day he writes that line at the end of the movie.
I like Paris's character. She's pretty cool. I think to what Andy said during the chase scene, I think they told her in the parts where she just seemed like she was having fun, just act natural. Just don't even worry about acting. Just go have fun.
Yeah.
Because who wouldn't be like thrilled to just drive that thing around and get to bash into shit? That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun character. Cool.
I do want to kind of finish this up here pretty quickly because I think we're getting close to time here. But any other characters we want to touch on that we haven't already? I know we haven't really talked about any of the returning characters, but anybody else we want to talk about quickly? Nothing? No standouts?
I mean, the federal agents were cool.
What, Shea Wiggum and the other? I had to look him up because I thought the black guy who I guess in the script is or in the casting is called Degas, Degas. And I was trying to figure out where I recognized him from. I actually thought he played Gaz in Call of Duty, but it's Greg Tarzan Davis. He was in Top Gun Maverick as one of the pilots, so that's where I recognize him from.
But he's not Gaz?
He is not Gaz.
I actually kind of thought the same thing.
Yeah, I was looking at IMDb to make sure.
Oh, okay. I thought they were great. That's why I brought them up. I thought like their arc for characters was very interesting. Watching them navigate like what the hell is Ethan really doing?
Yeah.
And saying like maybe he is doing the right thing and we should be not doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, like questioning like the moral standpoint of like just following orders essentially to go track him down, I thought was a good storyline to follow. Just an additional plot line that is going to probably lead to them helping him in the long run. You know what I mean? It seems like they're leaning that way, and I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the IMF.
All right,
agents.
so I'm going to get to our repeatable questions that we've done. So if you've been keeping up with all the other Mission Impossible episodes we did for the Never Seen That stuff, we've had some repeatable questions we've tried to do to predict the answers to before we watch the movie, and then kind of compare the numbers and see how close we got after watching. So those questions include the number of mask reveals. Does Ethan go rogue? Does Ethan ride a motorcycle? Is there a mission-related helicopter? How many times does Tom Cruise run? Which, again, these are starts and stops. So if he runs from scene to scene, that's one run. As soon as he stops and then runs again, that's the second one, and we count like that. And then the one that Ian is very adamant that we should add to this list all the time is, does he taste the goods? That's still here. So running through what we predicted before. So we did, as far as our group chat message is concerned, we did throw these out there before we saw the movie. So we'll try to compare the numbers now and see how we did. Number of mask reveals. Ian said 1, Josh said 2, Andy said 0, Mike said 0, but he's saving the big reveal for part 2. I said 1. I believe there were 2. I don't remember if there was a third.
I thought there were.
I know.
I thought there were 3.
Where was the third? I remember the 2 at the beginning.
And
Haley
you
Atwell
have at
later.
least
Oh, Haley Atwell was
Grace's-
3. Yes, you're correct. Yes. Sorry. 3. Yes, there were 3. So none of us were right for that one. Does Ethan go rogue? Ian said yes. Josh said by necessity. Andy said starts the movie rogue. Mike said Ethan is the rogue. I said no, and he was going to save rogue for part 2. I'm trying to think back. They mention a lot of times that Ethan has gone rogue in the past. Does he go rogue in this movie?
The literal
He's rogue the
CIA
whole
is
time.
hunting him down, Brian.
But
Yeah,
he's on
but
mission,
like-
right? The whole thing is if
what
he's on
What mission? Who gave him a mission? No one.
he gets the
That's
he
his-
gets
yeah,
the
that's
his
the thing,
mission
I
was to
don't-
return
he gets the briefing
key.
about the keys. He's going for the keys the entire time.
And his mission was to return the key, and they say very clearly he did not
He
return
tells
the
And
key.
also-
he has a confrontation with Cutter, doesn't he?
Like he gassed all
Kittredge.
those CIA,
Kittredge, yeah.
all those
Kittredge.
people. He gassed all those people.
Yeah, he
Pretending to-
gassed
pretending to be his secretary.
Okay.
Yeah, he gassed Kittredge and left.
Okay.
Like he like
All right. I just needed a refresher. So rogue it is. I am wrong. Everybody else was right for that one. Does Ethan ride a motorcycle? Yes. From Ian, Josh says of fucking course. Andy says yes. Mike says yes. I said yes. Yes, it was in the trailers.
in the trailers.
He rode
Like,
the motorcycle in the
didn't
trailer.
see
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, it was all the hype around the mountain jump off the cliff with the motorcycle. So that was
That was
everywhere.
a moped.
Yeah, even not just trailers, just them talking about the stunt.
Yeah.
came up, there was like little shorts about just the stunt itself. So
Is there a mission-related helicopter? Ian said yes. Josh said no. Andy said yes. Mike said yes. I said yes. I don't remember one. I don't think there was.
there was not.
So there was not. Josh gets that one.
I figured they would take at least one movie off after how heavily helicopters factored into the ending of the previous one.
Yeah. How many times did Tom Cruise run? Ian came in with 7. Josh said 11. Andy said 23. Mike said 9. I went with an even 20. Andy had a bright idea before we saw the movie to bring in like a mile tracker, like a clicker, to try to track the number of times Tom Cruise ran. Josh volunteered that he had one of those. He brought that in the theater and tried to keep track and hopefully tick that over every time one of the runs started. It was slow going at first, right? We didn't see a lot of runs up front. It was coming later in the movie, I think.
Did that break your immersion at all, Josh? Like, was it hard to remember when to click and stuff?
A little bit at times, yes.
Okay.
Because I know we've had that problem in the past where you get so engrossed in watching the movie, you're like 5 minutes later, oh wait, he did run. Tally that up.
Yeah. Well, and during the rewatches, during the Never Seen That, it was easy. Like, we're just watching at home. We can just stop, rewind if we want to. To Andy's question, yeah, it was a little bit because I'm like, oh crap, did I miss one? Now I'm thinking about it and I'm like missing a few seconds mentally of what I'm watching.
Yeah. So we hopefully we have a pretty accurate count for this one. But Josh, what was the tally that you had?
Okay. At the end, the clicker said 15. I'm going to say there's a possibility that it might have been as many as 17.
Okay. So closest
Who's
one,
the
I guess,
closest?
was me.
Are we
was
doing prices
20.
right?
Yeah, I guess I
feel
went
like this is
over.
Price is
So
Right.
if
No,
if overage don't count, then it's Josh with 11. So yeah, but either Josh or I. Josh had 11, I had 20. So if it's 17, we're right in the middle there somewhere. So close. We were close. Last one. Does he taste the goods? Ian said indubitably. Josh said the table will be set, but the meal will be delayed to part 2. Andy said he tastes the goods. Mike said he's tasting those goods at least once. I said I hate to admit it, but I bet there are some goods tasted. I don't think he tastes any goods in this one.
I don't.
So
believe
we're
you
gonna
did.
have to. Josh might be the closest. Maybe we get the goods tasted in part 2.
I feel like Josh saw this movie before we did.
I thought there was a moment or two with him and Ilsa, though, where I really I think they're like on a gondola ride or some shit. I was about to eat my words. I thought at the very least, like, if we just have like a direct, deliberate kiss, I'm like, that qualifies. And there was
that
absolutely
counts.
a moment that it was like right there, and they didn't. And I was, and
Yeah,
I
the
was
same thing
actually
with Grace
shocked.
at the end too.
They were like cuddling on the it was like a deck or like a
Yeah, like overlooking Venice or wherever
alongside-
they were.
Yeah, overlooking Venice, and they almost like cuddle a little bit. So I feel like maybe he tasted the goods, but it was off screen.
We can't.
Doesn't count.
It's,
Can't count.
Yeah, it's not even.
Implied
It's not even
goods,
Shakespearean, where it's like, well, it was exposition that we got for something that we didn't see. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Casey Affleck and Good Will Hunting just dropping the baseball mitt on the table when he comes back down.
There you go. Yep, nothing like that.
So quickly, 2 other questions. Favorite stunt or action sequence in the movie? Ian, I'll start with you.
Fuck.
If I'm making you think on the spot here.
Pass.
Okay. You want me to come back around to you after some time to think about it?
I don't remember what happened in this movie.
All right, we'll come back around. Andy, what do you think?
I thought the train escape was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that part.
You mean
was...
like when they're like climbing back in, like trying to like when the train's falling over.
when the train
cliff,
is
that what
falling
you-
over the cliff and they're progressively having to like climb up the train to escape a grim demise. Yes.
Okay. Mike, what do you think?
I'm torn between 2 moments with Benji personally. Defusing the bomb in the airport that's not a bomb.
Okay. Yeah.
That and the whole like self-driving car thing where he's like trying to assist Ethan in figuring everything out and where to go. like that whole interaction of getting Ethan to the jump.
Okay.
That's kind of an action sequence, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
it leads to
Which-
a big one.
I thought for sure when he put that car in self-drive mode that it was going to take over and kill him. I really thought with Rogue AI that was the thing that was going to happen.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That didn't occur.
I was
to
like,
me.
that nothing about that felt safe, depending on what given what had happened earlier in the movie, that he just trusts the car like that. I was like, there's no way, no.
And if you trust the Fast and the Furious movies, you can do that to cars that don't even have engine computers. So
Oh yeah. Josh, what do you think? Favorite sequence or action sequence?
Just for sake of having something else to discuss, I think I'll say the expanded airport idea, because you have Luther and Benji talking to each other, trying to keep Ethan off comms at certain points. They're both doing things for him, but also things on their own.
Yeah.
Then Ethan is off, chasing their target. Then he's chasing Haley Atwell. Then the federal agents are in the mall or in the airport. They're after him, and all that's going on. And then then Benji has to break off and go find the bomb. I thought that was all really well orchestrated.
and what's her name and Gabriel are there too. Like Palm, she kills the guy that that Grace was going to be doing the swap back to, that she takes it off of. The guy that they were there for, that they were going to follow on the plane.
Oh, that's
She's
right.
like
that's
Palm's
right.
the one that kills him.
Yeah.
Ian, we'll come back to you. Got an answer yet?
They fought on top of the train, partly because, did you guys know the Orient Express? Real train, not just like a movie thing. Did you know that? I didn't. That was me finding out Orient Express is a very real thing. So that was real cool. Yeah, Josh?
Also, the Orient Express was a book before it was a movie.
Yeah, I doubt that. Anyways, fighting on top of the train, I liked when Gabriel was just like, hey, we're both laying down, I'm just gonna swing this knife out and see what happens. Kind of liked him just like, hey, what the fuck? We're just laying here, let me see if this will cut him. Like, it wasn't gonna kill Tom Cruise by just laying down and swinging his knife forward, but, maybe he'll bleed a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll suck his own
little
blood,
cuts, right?
Little taste in the own self-goods.
Oh,
If
God,
it bleeds, we can kill it.
Find out if he's a robot.
Favorite one for me, I think, was the car chase with the Mini Cooper. I think that one was really cool. I like that one a lot. I think it went on maybe too long, but still awesome.
I feel like that was a Fiat
Oh yeah,
because they were in Italy.
Yeah,
so it was
I think you're right.
Like,
It was a Fiat 500. They specifically name dropped the car in the movie. Whatever.
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that whole
They
gag,
paid
just
for
even
that.
selecting the car, rolling down, and having them switch spots when the car rolled over. I thought that was a fun little gag too. So yeah, all of that I thought was cool.
I love the electric car having overpowered motors that just make it spin out of fucking control.
Yeah,
Like
spy car.
that was fun.
As of right now, Dead Reckoning Part 2 is scheduled to release on June 28th, 2024. But again, we're in the middle of writers and actors strike, which has delayed films and TV properties currently in production. So this could very well be delayed. But any predictions you want to throw out there for Part 2? Anything at all?
Robots.
That was mine.
I
No, like multiple.
I don't think there will be robots.
Face reveal, robot.
Because we don't
I'm
see Gabriel bleed, do we?
No one.
Just,
Robots can
no one
bleed.
makes
Just
them bleed,
saying.
though. It's not like
Yeah, I'm just saying. Robot.
Especially not his own blood.
Robot.
dodgeball. I think it's gonna be just
White Goodman's shiny shoes.
revealed that the AI wants Tom Cruise to find it, so Tom Cruise can turn it off because the AI knows that's the only person that would not abuse the power. Him and
I could see
him
that.
and Tarzan, because Tarzan had the same point where he said he'd give it. Well, I guess Tarzan would just give it to the feds, which is actually worse than keeping it for yourself.
Yeah.
Giving it to
Give
the
it to your
American
boss, the
government
superiors,
is
yeah.
the worst decision you can make.
Andy, any predictions? Part 2?
I actually am subscribing to what Ian just said. I have a feeling that the AI wants Tom Cruise to find it. He knows that Tom Cruise is the only one to do the morally correct thing with it.
And his wife's actually the AI. Boom, nailed it.
That's the true mass reveal.
Not a robot, Brian. She's actually an AI.
He was married to a robot
She's a
for
fembot.
all this time, and we didn't even know it.
It's a spy movie.
It's a
She's a fembot.
Mike, any predictions for part 2?
I mean, I said robots.
Okay. I didn't know if that was serious or
but
not.
no, like
Kong?
no, I like actual predictions. I think there's a big stunt with the ice of some sort where he's gonna go to the submarine and retrieve, and there's gonna be some big stunt with
do you
that.
think the ice is the stunt or like the actual sub?
I don't know,
is the
like-
stunt, or it's all one stunt.
That it's going to be a stunt for him to retrieve the entities, whatever, that little cerebro that it's in. I don't know what to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a stunt. I think you're going to see somebody betray him that you're not
Hawkeye.
expecting. Yes, Jeremy Renner's coming back.
Is he dead? Or is he
and-
why wasn't he in these? Is he dead? I don't remember.
They just did not manage to get a contract signed for him
From
to
what
be back
I
because
understood,
they promised him the role.
They were going to bring him back for Fallout, but possibly kill him. So he decided to cite scheduling conflicts with Marvel movies and didn't do it.
I like how you worded that. Like he's like, no, you can't kill me off if I don't show up.
That I
Like they
think was
couldn't
the
just
gist
do
that I
it
seem
off
to have
screen.
got. Was that he refused to kind of agree to that to come back to, and they just didn't end up doing anything with him.
Some
But
fucking Hulk Hogan shit. I'm not gonna lose to Sting.
I think
Josh, any predictions
The
for part 2?
Yes, specifically that it is the last one Tom Cruise will ever do.
Ooh, okay.
I think he's in his early 60s. Not that he's not doing really amazing shit with this, but they're making like a 5 to 5.5 hour 2-part movie that would absolutely be a wonderful and organic way for that character to retire. And if you follow the theme of what they discussed with Benji, Ving Rhames, and Ethan, I cannot remember
Luther.
Ving Rhames. Luther, thank you. They all talk about basically having come into this world the same way that Haley Atwell is introduced as doing in this movie. So I think at least Ethan and maybe Luther are done after this. And this is like the $1 million shot, but they might be setting Haley Atwell up to be the new Ethan.
Interesting.
Okay. I think my prediction, sort of other than the left field robots idea, is that like Luther goes off to try to work on whatever he's working on. What I'd love to see is if this is the sort of the finale of sort of this franchise or Tom Cruise's part in it, I'd love to see some other returning IMF agents, like bring back Paula Patton, bring back I can't think of the girl from 3. But she's still around,
Paula
like some of the
Abdul.
other agents they used in past movies that haven't died.
Isn't it
Like I'd
Maggie
love to just
Q?
see. Yes, thank you. But yes, I'd love to see just some of these callback, even Renner, like bring Renner back, because this is, I don't know, some sort of bigger world issue that maybe they can just start pulling people out of the world. Like if Luther goes to try to figure out what to do or what he can do, somehow maybe he contacts other previous IMF agents and brings back a crew.
No, I
And
don't.
suddenly
want, I
you
don't
have a
want
bigger-
Infinity War.
See, I would love
No.
that. I'd go for that.
No, I want them to just do the movie.
Star Wars did that same thing and it didn't work.
Star Wars did a couple things in those couple movies, but
Name
I'm just
one
saying
thing.
they did the Infinity War thing.
I think there's a fun way to do it. I think they could, if they could find a way to make it work. I think it'd be cool. It's just something I'd like to see. That I think it's a left field pull. I don't think they'll do that. I think they want to focus on the smaller team and what they've set up so far. But for a sort of finality's sake, I think it would just be cool to bring some of those people back. Lastly, we'll get to the rating. So out of 10, where do you guys rate Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning? Part 1, Andy, I'll start with you.
Do you happen to have the?
Yeah, I
spreadsheet
do.
up?
I got them.
Okay.
Yep.
Better.
Yep. I'm just gonna go through them because it's just gonna be easier for everybody. Andy gave Mission Impossible 1 6.5, a 2, Mission Impossible 2 a 5, Mission Impossible 3 7.5, Ghost Protocol was an 8.5, Rogue Nation was a 9, Fallout was a 9.2.
I think this one's a solid 9.5.
Okay. Josh, where do you fall for Dead Reckoning Part
Can
1?
you just let me know what my highest rated was? That's all I want.
Rogue Nation 8.5. And again, we don't have your ratings for 1, 2, or 4 because you weren't on those ones.
right. They would be lower than that. If that's an 8.5, I'll start it as same. I'll give it an 8.5.
Okay. Mike, where you at?
What were mine? Hey, may as well know if you've got them there.
Yeah, you did 6.5 for 1, 5.5 for 2, and 9 for Ghost Protocol.
I'll stick with a 9.
All right.
I'm good saying the same.
Ian, what do you got? Do you need yours too?
No, I don't. 8.7.
Kind of the weird fucking decimal points. I'm gonna go 8.5. I think for mine. I think it's good. It's still again like top tier for me. I think in the top 3 probably, top 3 maybe 4 depending on the day, but top 3. So yeah, 8.5 for me. All right, I think that's where we're gonna end this one. If you've enjoyed the show, please support us. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to give us a share on social media. You can follow, subscribe to keep up with the show. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher, Amazon. Hopefully, anywhere you're finding podcasts, you can find us. As I mentioned at the top of the show, hit us up on Facebook, Bry Guy Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. There is an email address that is active mostly. I don't check it. bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. Again, we're still on Twitter at BGSuperFriends. You can hit us up there. Twitch channel is Jedi Bry Guy, Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y. If we ever record for another live recording of a show, we'll do it there. Again, like I said, one of the episodes we did a while ago, it's been months now, but was video game back catalog stuff. We all kind of picked a video game to play next off of our back catalog. BioShock was the one that won out for me. It was one that I intended on streaming. I just haven't got there yet. So if I stream again at some point, that'll be the one that I do. I will try to keep maybe posted if I do that. But I think that's it. On behalf of Andy, Ian, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.